Okay. Jeff or Michael, would you all like to respond to public and or staff comment? Looks like we may have lost Jeff. Michael, are you there?
Oh, we're here. I'm sorry. Did you have a question?
No, you don't have to, but you have the opportunity to respond to public comment or staff comment if you don't.
No, we're fine with what's requested. My only question would be the signage and how is that dealt with?
That you could submit to staff separately. Alex, are we going directly to you or are we going to BAR?
That you would submit to a permitting email. It's permits@charleston-sc. We can give you the details of that when we send you the results.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's go to board discussion. I actually have a question of the board. So we're looking at an application that got sort of modified on the fly, though everyone seems to be comfortable with it. Are you following, to my board members, are you following sort of what the changes are and able to understand it?
Jay, this is Julia. I was sort of thinking we would just assume that the second half of that request is withdrawn, that it's just maybe preliminary approval for replacement of storefront door that we're considering now. Is that reasonable?
That is what's being considered. You know, I would ordinarily we would say if somebody's changing what they've submitted, you know, at the meeting, we would want that to be withdrawn and resubmitted. But given the fact that they're reducing the scope and not changing it or increasing it, I think it's okay to go forward with the, you know, with the condition that it's just a change out of the storefront door with a wood door.
Fillmore here. I have a sort of a question for clarification too. So do we then, because of the way this is stated, do we then deny the replacement of portion of the storefront window with the new aluminum panel and approve the, assuming that's the direction we're going, approve the replacement of the door with the condition that the door be wood with a glass panel? Is that,
Yeah, you could do that.
Well, I don't believe we have to. I believe the applicant's withdrawn.
That's what I thought, Bill. Yeah, there's nothing to deny anymore.
okay, so that's been withdrawn. Okay, needed a clarification.
Yeah, question to the applicant, is that right?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Yeah, so there were, maybe somebody can help me articulate it, but there were originally two components to the application. One was a modification to the storefront, and the other had to do with modifying the door. And are y'all withdrawing the modification to the storefront component of the application?
Yes, we're withdrawing that.
Okay. And now we're just talking about modifying the door.
And we're fine with what's been proposed.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt there, guys. Further discussion on the modified application.
Oh, I do have one question. Is it okay to remove the red striping from the inside of the windows?
Please.
Please do.
Yes, you get points for that.
I think that just went up there for the last tenant when it was maybe like a yoga studio or something.
Yeah.
Is when that, or maybe a Pilates studio or something. It is when that went up.
And it was not approved. It just happened.
Okay, so is there any further board discussion on this item? Okay, does anybody feel like positing a motion here?
And I'll make a, Fillmore here, I'll make a shot at it for preliminary approval of replacement of storefront door with board condition that the replacement door be wood.
Final review by staff or what?
Yes, a final review by staff. Thank you, Julia.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Fillmore, I heard your motion is preliminary approval of replacement of the storefront door with a board condition to replace it with a wood door and final review by staff, right?
Yes.
Okay, Julie, that's what you seconded.
Yes.
Put that up for a vote. Fillmore,
Aye in favor.
Julia,
I in favor.
Glenn,
I in favor.
Bill,
I in favor.
chair votes aye in favor. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay.
52 Murray Boulevard.
Yeah, this is a request for final approval for modifications to masonry wall and piers with reuse of the existing iron fence and modification of gate. It's a Category 3 building in Charlestown, circa 1913 in the old and historic district. Once again, apologize for the quality of this, but this is the house here at Limehouse and Murray Boulevard. There's a view from Murray. And this is the fence and knee wall that we're talking, portion of it that we're talking about, and also on this side. East view on Murray Boulevard. And looking west on Murray. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the applicant for their presentation. Alex, if you would allow them to speak.
And I've promoted Eddie Fava to panelist, and you can unmute yourself and turn on your camera if you have it.
Good evening. Am I present? I can't tell on my end, but it looks like.
Yes, you are.
Excellent. Okay. Thank y'all for your time and looking at this evening. Sheila Wertimer did the garden on this property that we renovated and did the guest house for several years ago. And in both the storms of, I guess it was maybe Matthew in 2016 and 2017, the garden and the guest house and the crawl space took on enormous amounts of water, and like many properties in the area were really trashed. So the Gleaves had charged Sheila with coming up with a solution that would help mitigate it. Everybody knows there's no guarantee, particularly in the location it is, that it's going to do anything beyond that. But in studying it, what they looked at doing was, and sorry, Dennis, I guess I can go to the next page. I apologize.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you. Yeah, and sorry, I'll go to the first photos. I missed that to be able to explain to everybody. Thank you. And to see if there was a way which is minimal mitigation to the existing wall and the masonry height that was there, use as much as possible the existing ironwork with a slight extension of the piers and a slight extension of the knee wall, which basically amounted to a foot to be able to do that. Proportionally, certainly felt like it held with the house. It almost looks like the wall is not significant enough for the house as it stands presently. In the areas where adjacent, and next page, please. Thank you, Dennis. All along Murray, at varying heights, there are walls such as these. So it was trying to strike a balance with something that, again, could use as much as possible the existing ironwork. Some are taller, some are about the same height, very few are lower. Then next page. So the area on which it would happen would, again, around the front and the bays along the side of Limehouse Street that have ironwork above them. Not all of them do. One of the perhaps oversights or discrepancies we saw in the application, as I discussed it with Dennis recently, is the ones that Sheila had alluded to on the side that would be addressed were just two, when in fact, I think she had understood that all of that was masonry along that end, with the exception of the two bays on Limehouse, when in fact it's maybe four more. They just had a dense growth of jasmine in it and whatnot. But the next page will illustrate again the extent of where the work would be proposed and beyond what is shown on Limehouse, it would be another 3 bays or so, which is about the extent of that side garden there with the water fountain. Then next page. So as you can see from the drawings, the top left shows the wrought iron fence in its existing condition with a 1'6" knee wall, 7-foot height column. The goal was to, again, maintain the ironwork as it is in as many instances as possible. With just a minimal raise, we would have a 2'6" knee wall, an 8-foot proposed column height. And at the entry gate that is in front of 50 Murray property, similarly, the knee wall raises the foot, and the gate, which is new in that location, would just be extended a foot. I appreciate staff's time and pointing out the discrepancy along Limehouse, the area where more bays needed to be addressed and were highlighted in this application. And there was a request for additional detail of as is shown from the front, where the ironwork does a kind of gentle curve up to the piers that surround the front entry door. Yeah, right in that location. That wasn't addressed in a detail that was submitted, and staff had requested that it be such. But again, our hope is that in working with them, we're able to deal with that. I can review that with Sheila, make sure that's pointed out. One other thing I'll point out is it was the owner's desire, in theory, to be able to use the kind of inflatable aqua dams at the pedestrian and vehicular entrances. There are 2 pedestrian entrances off of Murray Boulevard, the vehicular in the bottom right photograph off of Limehouse, rather than a flood panel type apparatus. So there's nothing associated with the detail at this time, because that's not what they would like to do. If that changes, it would certainly come back to you for that request, but right now it's just dealing with the masonry. The property is a historic Charleston, or has a historic Charleston Foundation easement on it, which extended to the wall. The wall was built, and I neglected to say, as best we could tell, 40 or 50 years after the house itself was, which puts it kind of in the 50s. Now, I have no absolute documentation of that, but just from the prior owners and everything that we've been told, that's where it stood. So again, I guess the request is to allow them to mitigate a bit here without going overboard, doing the best to use the existing ironwork, and any details we could hopefully that were not included in this worked out at a staff level. Thank you.
Thanks, Eddie. Questions of Eddie at this point? Okay, Alex, why don't we go to staff, excuse me, public comment.
Can I ask one question though, Jay?
Sure.
Eddie, will you be able to exactly match this brick?
Wertimer was out on site with us when we looked at that, and she had said she had a mason look at it and said that yes, they could find that mason, and that was the intent. And again, if that was not the case, or that's something y'all wanted to review prior to them moving forward with it or submit a sample, I'm sure I could secure that from them, because that is clearly the intent with what's going on here.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Alex, let's go to public comment.
Yes, we have April Wood, and you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. April Wood, Historic Charleston Foundation. As Addie mentioned, Historic Charleston Foundation has a preservation easement on this property. It covers the entire parcel. We've reviewed and approved this request as it relates to our easement. We respectfully recommend the approval of this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, staff comments.
All right. Well, the existing brick knee wall, piers, and ironwork actually date from 1990 per our BAR files.
Oh, wow.
So modification to these elements is acceptable to us. However, you know, as Eddie was saying, I discussed this with him today, that the application doesn't really address how the ironwork will be modified at the entry piers. I'm talking about this area here where the fence comes along and it sort of swoops up to meet the height of the pier here. And if it gets raised, what's going to happen with that, because these piers are not being raised. So that was one issue. And then the other issue here on Limehouse is if this coping wall gets raised 18 inches and these short piers get extended to 8 feet and this fence jumps up, you're going to have a condition where you're going to have a 30-inch wall drop down to an 18-inch wall right here, which might be a little awkward. But I think we can figure out a way to make this work with the applicant. And I feel like water's still going to get into the property, especially at the driveway end on Limehouse. But I can understand wanting to raise the wall here. So we're comfortable that we can work with the applicant to resolve the issues and recommend an unusual recommendation, which is deferral with final review by staff.
Okay, we'll tell you what, Eddie, once you got a reaction to staff and/or public comment?
No, I appreciate staff ability to work with us on this, and as Dennis said, those two conditions warrant some more attention and a provision of a detail. I think we're at the intention at the piers and the entry is that it maintains a curve. It may not be as steep, but something that's gentle that reflects the intent of what was there originally.
Okay.
All right. Board discussion.
This is Bill Huey. I would just say that I believe that staff comments are applicable, and I do think that staff and the applicant can work out this. So even the odd deferral with final review by staff, I do support that recommendation.
Can I second that?
Go ahead, Julia.
I can make it into a motion if you want to. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and make a
Second
motion.
that comment.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion for deferral of the application, but for final review by staff.
Second.
All right, so Bill has made a motion for deferral of the application with final review by staff. Julia seconded it. I'll put that to a vote. Bill?
Do you think the motion ought to mention that final review by staff to work out the two issues that we identified as not resolved in the application, or something like that, just for
Maybe
the
just
record?
staff comments. Does that
Okay.
work?
Okay, well, can I do deferral with staff's comments and final review by staff?
Sure.
Second.
All right, so Bill, right, so modified motion. Bill's made deferral of the application with staff comments noted and final review by staff. Julia seconded that. All right, so put that to a vote. Bill?
Aye in favor.
Julia?
Aye in favor.
Fillmore?
Aye in favor.
Glenn?
I in favor.
Chair votes aye in favor. Motion passes unanimously. All right.
Thank you.
Welcome, Eddie. Okay.
Agenda item is 89 Bufane.
Okay, this is a request for conceptual approval for hardscape modifications to include replacement of travertine paving with bluestone, renovation of one foundation and removal of two others, addition of turf area, and overall reduction of paving. It's a category 1 in the Charleston Village, circa 1815, 1819, in the old and historic district. So on Bufane Street, obviously, these are existing site photos, beautiful house. Left view of the building, and then east on Bufane, and west on Bufane. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant for their presentation. Alex, if you could allow them to speak. By the way, the introduction said foundation. Was that fountain?
Yes, that must be a typo.
Yeah.
All right, I promoted Amanda Barton and Lacey Bridges, and you can unmute yourselves. And if you've got a camera, you can turn it on.
I am unmuted and I am trying to,
There you go. You did it.
can you see me? Okay, There we go. Well, thanks everybody. If you could be so kind as to add Freeman Milligan as a panelist, that would be great, Alex. So thank you everybody for your time tonight. I've been working on this project with Freeman Milligan. Lacey Bridges is the owner. Casey Bearden is the contractor. I don't know if he's logged in tonight. This property is a Category 1. It's a beautiful building. I know that it was renovated back in about 2007. Wonderful renovation. And the landscape was done about the same time, 2007. In looking at the site and meeting with the owner, you know, she wanted to simplify what was there and very much wanted to remove all the travertine marble that's on the site. It has maintenance issues and it just, you know, to all of us doesn't feel like Charleston. So in everything that we've looked in, there really are no historic materials left on the site at all. The concept is to utilize the existing space into 3 distinct areas or rooms to make it more appropriate to the context of the house and the overall district. You know, there are really just too many things going on with it. And as you said earlier, it was fountains, not foundations. There are 3 existing fountains there. So we're keeping the one that's on the north end closest to Bufane Street. The client desired a fire pit, so that's being switched out in the area where one of the fountains was. And then the 3rd fountain we're removing completely, which you saw in the photos. So we are working really with, you know, the existing space, and there are site utilities on the site already. There's quite a very, very large drainage system. It's almost highway size materials. And so we are reducing some of the impervious material. We're replacing plant materials along the west side. We're not touching anything on the east side of the property where the driveway is. We're specifically working in the zone that's being shown. So with that, is Freeman on here?
I'm here, thank you. Can you hear me?
He was going to go into some specifics about the different areas.
Thank you. Freeman Milligan with FH Milligan Design here. First, I'm just going to kind of go over each of these 3 sub areas individually to start off with. The first thing is the dining area, and that's the kind of subspace, so to speak, that's at the north end up there by the fountain that we're keeping. Basically, up there right now, there are 4 cutout planters in the pavers in the pavement, which each have a purple leaf plum, which are not in very good condition. We're proposing to take the purple leaf plums out. We're also going to slightly adjust, as you can see on the demolition plan, if sheet 3, that'd be great, to enhance the circulation. The current cutout planters are very tight, very, very close to the seat wall and to the other edge of the pavement. We want to make that a little more reasonable in terms of walking around there. And then we're going to come back in once we take the purple leaf plums out with some pots. We're thinking some like 36-inch pots. We hadn't decided what exactly we're going to plant in those yet. We might do some formal little 3 or 4 foot clip thing, or we may do something just spilling over the sides. We'll go into further detail on the next submittal with that. As you can see, the overall site, what we're proposing to replace the pavement with is bluestone in an ashlar pattern, which is what is currently existing around the piazza with the entrance walk that goes along in front of the piazza. So we want to, when we remove the travertine, replace it with that. And then there's a few areas where we'd have some accents with a little bit of different, to change the pattern a little bit. We want to kind of use those to kind of define these spaces a little bit. And the first one of those is the the dining area up there. You can see where we have the four corners with the pots, and then we have the diamond-shaped 18-inch square bluestone. A bluestone on page 7, if you wanted to look at that, there's a sample of the actual photograph, a couple little shots there of the actual bluestone that's there now to give you an idea of the range. We plan on keeping that. And then the diamond-shaped bluestone will be the same range. However, what we're thinking about doing is where we have the borders around these accent areas of the diamond pattern to make that more of a uniform blue that would be something that would tie into at least part of the blue that's in the existing bluestone we have, but give it a thermal finish. And the idea there is just to make a subtle contrast there to enhance the visual contrast between those patterns. And then basically size-wise, the space is designed to accommodate a 8-seat dining table. And then for the middle of the site there, where we have a circle, where that's going to be a fire pit. What we're planning to do is taking that square fountain out that was there and placing that with a fire pit. The circular pattern around there is one thing too. It's going to be where the furniture goes. For the furniture, the seating, whatever, lounging, that's going to be around the fire pit. So we want to give that kind of its own place to sit. And then also the circular form, we felt that was appropriate since that's the intersection of the two axes of the garden or courtyard. The 12-inch wide border around the diamond pattern there, it will be the same material as the border, the same color material as the border of the dining area. We're proposing, like Amanda said, to take out the southern red cedars along the western edge of the property, and we're planning on coming back in there with some East Palatka hollies in the area around next to the fire pit area. Thinking about doing Foster hollies up near toward the dining area because that's a narrower space, and then some tea olives down on the south end just for space reasons. But we wanted to, the reason we're thinking about doing the East Palatkas here at the center area, a couple of reasons. They're generally upright, so they're going to do a good job not getting too big, and also screening the neighbor next door, but also provide some shade. And we also, as you can see, we've done 2 groups of 3, so that enhances kind of the spatial definition there a little bit, also bringing the softening the landscape forward into space a little bit. So that was something we're trying to do. And then finally, we'll also I want to mention here as well, we're proposing to replace the seat wall copings, the stairway treads, and the landing into the dependency, as well as the seat wall coping at the fountain that's to remain. And that's going to be the same bluestone, same color matching the ashlar patterns there now. Okay, in the south end of the site, we're trying to bring a little more softening. The place feels like a plaza right now. We want to give it a little more green. So proposing to do a lawn area down here. We're adding some more planted areas, more landscape. The existing palmettos down there are to be retained. We are keeping we're taking the ashlar pattern all the way around the lawn area just for circulation reasons, I guess. And that's what makes sense in terms of also the axis of the garden and making everything balanced. And then we're also putting a little thermal bluestone threshold at the northern and southern entrance to the lawn area, just to kind of carry that same theme through, the same thermal color and finish. And we're also adding a focal feature at the middle of the lawn area. Just we need some kind of a visual terminus down on this end of the site, we felt like. Okay, now we can go talk about real quick about the fountain improvements we're proposing. That's on page 6, sheet 6. There's a picture there. You can see the existing fountain. What we're proposing to do is remove the travertine, that's the material on both faces of it, and remove the brick arch at the top, excuse me. And then we kind of felt like it's just kind of sticking, well, let me go back. We're going to replace the travertine with white stucco like the rest of the walls and everything out there, and then replace that cap with a flat stucco cap just to match everything else. But we felt the actual panel there is just kind of floating up there. It doesn't have any visual structure to it beneath. So we're going to come back on the bottom of that and do an arched bluestone sort of base to it to make it give it a little more sense, a little more visual structure to it. The details show that to be a site cast concrete piece with bluestone actually attached to that, but we may end up doing just a single piece of bluestone cut to that shape. We're going to look at that, the cost, the pros and cons of cost on that each way. Also, as you can see, putting a lion's head. This is a two-sided fountain, if y'all didn't see that. A lion's head accent on each side, and so that pretty much covers the fountain. Then the fire pit's pretty straightforward. That's back on sheet 5 if you want to go up to there. It's just a circular thing. It's going to be the white stucco walls that matches everything else. They'll have a bluestone coping to it, and we put a little bluestone base molding to it just to avoid scuff marks and just white stucco. And that pretty much covers what we're asking to do.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions right now?
I have one. Is there any lighting proposed?
There is existing lighting out there and existing irrigation there, and the owner wants to come back and just it needs to be repaired. It's gonna be replaced as it is. We can show what's there on the next submittal if you want us to.
Okay. So no changes to
No
lighting.
changes to what's there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any public comment, Alex?
No public comment.
All right, well, let's do staff comments and recommendations.
The hardscape changes proposed are, in our opinion, vast improvements and befitting of this high style Category 1 house. Though artificial turf is proposed, it's far to the rear of the property and blocked from view by the renovated fountain, so I think it's okay here. And I mentioned if site lighting is proposed, it'll require review by the board as a Category 1, but if there are no changes, then that's not necessary. We're recommending final approval, not even final review by staff, just final approval with a lighting plan submitted separately for approval by staff since there are no changes.
Okay, thanks, Dennis.
Welcome.
Freeman, do y'all have any questions or comments to staff comments?
No, absolutely. We'll be happy to inventory a little more closely what lighting we have out there and then submit that to staff.
Okay, great. All right, so board discussion. I'll start with making a note that I grew up as a kid in 88 Bethane Street, that yellow one across the street. This has come quite a long way since the late 70s, and it looks great. And that lot is extraordinarily deep. So I agree with Dennis in terms of the limited visibility of the artificial turf at the rear.
This is Bill Huey. I'll make a confession too. I actually did this addition and the back building back in 2000 and whenever this was done. And candidly, I didn't like the landscape plan that was executed at the time anyway. I like this a lot better. It was more befitting the house. I was pretty disappointed with the extent of the landscape. It sort of smacked more of Florida to me at the time that my client did it. So I'm very pleased to see this happening. I really just think most of what we're looking at here are improvements. There is Freeman, it's good to see you again, Freeman. To your point, and Amanda, and good to see you, Amanda. You mentioned the extensive drainage sort of retention and handling area. My client was a large industrial commercial contractor from the Northeast. So That's why it's so extensive. And there was a major flooding problem down to this property. So a lot of remedying was done there. I would just say mostly everything I'm seeing here are positive changes to the property. And to Dennis's comment, I think they're more befitting of this home. It's an amazing home. It's one of those homes when you go in and measure and every room dimension is exactly in alignment. There's no anything off. Everything's dead on square. Everything's dead on alignment. The gentleman who built this house owned a pretty major lumber yard, and I think some pretty amazing, talented carpenters owed him a lot of money because he got them to build a beautiful house for him. So I'm glad to see it happening. Thanks.
I'll be brief. I agree with you, Bill. This thing gives me palpitations so badly. And so Freeman and Amanda, I commend you. My only comment would be that, and I know this is not it's not part of your application to remove it, but I would hope that you would fully consider that fountain pool, in that you aren't constrained by what's there to add the arch and add the lion. I think, and obviously you've submitted what you've submitted, and it certainly is an improvement, but as a board member, I would love to see you maybe have the freedom to rethink what's happening there. I don't know, it's like a boat should drive under it or something. And those little lights that shouldn't be on the columns, I don't know. But otherwise, I commend you. It's so much better than what it is or was.
All right. Is there any other, Julia Fillmore, is there any other discussion? No, shaking of hands. Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, this is Bill. I'll make one. Make a motion for final approval with staff's comments and to the condition to submit a lighting plan separately for approval by staff.
All right. So Bill's made a motion for final approval with staff conditions noted, and is that a board? That's a staff condition to submit a lighting plan separately?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second to Bill's motion?
Second.
Second by Glenn. All right, I'll put that to a vote. Bill?
I am in favor.
Glenn?
I in favor.
Fillmore?
I in favor.
Julia?
I in favor.
Chair votes aye in favor. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
Yes. Good job, guys. Moved it along.
Well,
Dennis, I feel like you made a lot of work for yourself by accident.
Well, you know, there's no getting around having to go out and look at this stuff. Otherwise, people just do what they want to do, you know,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
the whole thing is for naught.
Yep.
But you're right. It's gonna, I'm hoping that they won't be looking for those staff reviews until Kim's back.
That'd be nice.
when
Let's
should
do
we
it.
do that?
When is she due back? Do we know?
Like September.
Mid-August.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. That can't come soon enough.
All right, guys, thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Good
All
night.
right. Have a good night, everybody.
You
A
too.
couple of weeks.
Good night.
Thanks, Alex.
Great.
Good
No
job.
problem. So when I left, Dennis, are you still there? No. Okay.